Naya Blitz.
Which also, at Grand Prix Quebec City, Nico Christensen
did fairly well.
Won the tournament with Naya Blitz, kind of where he broke out at that tournament as well as that deck did break out, and that's what Christopher Smith is playing. And I am kind of in agreement with you. I think this is a pretty tough matchup for him.
And this is almost exactly like Nico's list, all the way to he's still playing the 2 giant growths in the deck.
Wow. Okay.
So we're running back a couple months.
But no, wow, no 1-drop.
That's really hard. Yeah, no 1-drop out of his deck is pretty aggressive. I think he's on a 6-card hand, possibly. Yeah, he's...
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, if you're Clinton, you have to be absolutely thrilled right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I know this deck. I know that Naya Blitz is in a deck that mulligans very well. Like when you're going down to 5s, we're going to see a Burning Tree Emissary into a mulch. Let's talk about this.
So I've streamed a bunch with this, with the Human Reanimator, if you guys, under MTG Matthias. So the basic goal here, Chris is on a 5. What he's trying to set up is, so the combo which we're looking for is an Undercity Informer in play, and then the other pieces he has to get are Burning Tree Emissary, Fiend Hunter, and Angel of Glory's Rise all together. So it's fine that he runs this guy out, though there's no, you notice that he's not even attacking with it, just in case there was a haster. Even if he had the option, he wouldn't be attacking with it. Damage just actually doesn't matter. This is nothing more than a wall.
Yeah.
Because when he combos off, he doesn't care whether the Emissary is in play or in the yard.
So now Burning Tree Emissary into Mare of Averbrook for Chris after he does draw a second land, which was a Clifftop Retreat. We do know that Clinton has a Clifftop Retreat of his own that he found off of that mulch, and a Faithless Looting went into the graveyard. So, of course, the idea behind this Reanimator deck is to just stock the graveyard, flashback, or somehow bring back an Angel's Glorious Rise, and then kill him with the combo. Grizzly Salvage is going to help get some cards in the graveyard in Burning Tree Emissary, Overgrown Tomb, another Grizzly Salvage, a Hunt Match to the Fells, and I look like that middle card there is a mulch.
Right, so his options are going to be, there's no reason to take a second Burning Tree Emissary. 1 is enough. You have the full combo regardless of which one you do. So he's going to go ahead and grab the Burning Tree Emissary. I guess the reason you take it is he just wants to, if he feels like he has enough lands, then maybe he'll just try to trade that with yet another creature. He does have a Faithless Looting in hand. He has a Hunt Master of the Fells in hand, and that's going to buy him a lot of time on his way to setting up the combo.
All right, so after the Grizzly Salvage does resolve, Clinton is just going to, looks like he's just going to pass the turn back here. So Chris has got to get on the aggressive here, and he's got to start to do it fast. Now, Mare of Averbrook and Burning Tree Emissary are certainly going to help, but this next turn is a pretty crucial one.
Right, there's an Angel in the yard, which would suggest that if Clinton can Faithless Looting, or as long as he has an Unburial Rights, he could be winning the game as soon as turn 5. Remember, he needs, with the Angel in the yard and the Emissary in play, there's 2 more pieces he needs to find, which are Undercity Informer and Fiend Hunter.
Yeah. So Chris has a Champion of the Parish, I think an Experiment 1 in his hand as well, so I think that he can actually play multiple cards this turn that are of relevance. And, if Clinton just fumbles around a little bit here and can't find the pieces, then Chris can actually come back here from this mulligan to 5, in which he missed a second land drop and actually win the game. As you see, both players just clearing up a little bit of stuff here with damage, I think, about how much this Burning Tree Emissary is going to deal and all that good stuff.
It's a pretty rough matchup for Humanimator. As you can see, he's still struggling to race Naya Blitz.
Yeah.
One thing that Clinton wants to be sure to do is he needs to make sure that he doesn't flip the Mare of Averbrook himself.
Sure.
So he's going to try to set up turns where he's always at least casting one thing on his own turn.
And so it looks like we might have a judge call here.
Yeah, it might. Yeah, I think there was a ruling and an appeal. It may. My guess is this has to do with, if Chris might have said something like swing for 2, and then Clinton says okay, and the question is okay, can, it's actually a 3/3. It's a human.
Sure. You can't actually swing for 2.
No, you can't swing for 2. So that's it's not a missed trigger. Even though you missed your own things, you get that extra point for free. That's my guess as to what's going on here, based on what the player they're doing.
So again, Human Reanimator, I mean, this is kind of like kind of like an interesting gamble, right? Where people have started to basically, I don't want to say skimp on graveyard hate, but they've skimped on pure graveyard hate. You don't find Rest in Peace in sideboards anymore. So if your gamble is right with Human Reanimator and there are ground seals out there, then you're probably good to go, because you just deal the ground seal and then you just rock and roll from there.
Yeah, interestingly enough, Chris. Well, we'll get to sideboards later, but Chris is one of the few people who has not skipped on straight graveyard hate.
Yeah, a little foreshadowing for you guys there. As the Mare of Averbrook does flip, here's a Burning Tree Emissary from Clinton, and now a Hunt Master of the Fells.
Yeah.
So
he's going to flip back the Mare of Averbrook.
It's kind of interesting because Chris does have a... I think there's a Champion of the Parish and Experiment one in his hand, and he chose not to cast. Well, okay, he can only cast one of them because he has Sacred Foundry, Clifftop Retreat, but he chose just to.
No, he can't cast. Well, he has. Oh, he has Burning Tree. You said.
No, so his hand is he had an Experiment one and a Champion of the Parish. He
Right.
only has white-red source of mana, so
Right,
he
so you
can't
can't
cast
play
the green
the
card.
green card.
But I was a little surprised that he didn't just choose to cast Champion of the Parish last turn and just increase his board presence that way instead of like, I guess, hoping that the Mare flipping is actually going to be of relevance because it doesn't feel like it's going to be.
No, certainly. Once now that there's the Huntmaster in play, Mayor's not going to matter.
Yeah.
And Clinton wisely is choosing just to trade creatures whenever possible.
Yep. Those creatures, as you said, serve almost no purpose being in play.
Right.
They're at home being in the graveyard. And
He's
there's your
not going to
champion.
attack. I mean, even if Chris misses, running land drops again, I don't think Clinton's going to be attacking.
Yeah. Just those points of damage, as you see at Fiend
All right,
Hunter, is the
Fiend
draw.
Hunter. So we are one card away from the whole combo being assembled.
He's
and
just
that's
looking for Undercity Informer. Yeah.
Yep. So those of you who aren't sure exactly how the combo works, I'll kind of run through it for a second with you. You get an Angel of Glory's Rise in play. It'll bring back all the humans in the graveyard, which presumably there will be a Fiend Hunter in the graveyard. At that point, the Fiend Hunter, you have the Fiend Hunter exile the Angel of Glory's Rise, and in response to that, you start milling them with Undercity Informer. So what'll happen then is you get mana off his Burning Tree Emissary to activate that. You use the mana to sacrifice the Burning Tree Emissary, and then the second mana to sacrifice the Angel of Glory's Rise, which then resets sacrifice the Fiend Hunter, which brings the Angel back, which brings the Fiend Hunter back. So you have this thing where Fiend Hunter is exiling Angel of Glory's Rise over and over, and then you're making 2 mana, which you're using to sacrifice the Burning Tree Emissary and the Fiend Hunter every time to continually mill them with Undercity Informer until you get their whole deck.
It's a complicated way to win a game of Magic, but what it does do is it wins the game on the spot.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like this combo deck that it requires a lot of pieces to the puzzle, but it's not very hard to do because you have so many ways to actually find all those pieces of the puzzle in Grizzly Salvage, in Grizzly Salvage, in Mulch, and in Faithless Looting. So you have all of these ways to actually find all of these pieces of the puzzle,
Right.
and it's a 4-card combo, which is awkward, I guess, but I mean, it gets the job done when it's over.
Yeah, well, what we've known also is that while doing it, you're burn proof because you can also mill yourself for the entire deck. And then what you can do is every loop around you can use the extra mana to sacrifice the Huntmaster or the Fells every time around, so you can actually gain an arbitrarily large amount of life while doing it.
But one thing that this deck does a really nice job of is you're going to see another Mare of Averbrook here from Christopher. Champions are going to pump up here a little bit. Is that it does a really nice job of like gumming up the ground and just getting in the way. That's the important thing. Is like, you have all these chump blockers that are in the way with these Burning Tree Emissaries and these Huntmasters, these Undercity Informers, and you don't care if those things are dead. That doesn't matter.
Interestingly enough, even with, it looks like there's still no green source, is that correct? Or did he get the, no, he had a Rootbound Crag? Yeah, he had Rootbound Crag, so now he actually has a green source.
So now Burning Tree Emissary is going to jump in front of something here. It looks like he's going to sacrifice this to Undercity Informer.
To grind himself. Remember, he's just trying to find, well, nothing actually. He's trying to find a way to get that angel out of his yard. If he finds an Unburial Rites, that should be good enough.
So I think that's the only piece of the puzzle that's missing right now.
Yeah, I mean, he can also cast an angel out of his hand too.
Yep.
He can cast the Fiend Hunter out of his hand to buy himself some time. There's a lot of different ways he can make this happen.
Draw step for the turn. Fiend Hunter going with Godless Shrine and a mystery card in hand. So let's see what it is. I thought for a moment it was Grizzly Salvage. I feel like it's not anymore.
Yeah, I probably would. I doubt it's Grizzly Salvage. If it, yeah,
He's going to take 2.
Well, the idea is he wants to leave up as much mana as possible so that he can mill himself as much as possible with Undercity Informer. He may, with trigger on the stack here, sacrifice Fiend Hunter to permanently exile the creature because he wants to be sacking Fiend Hunter anyway.
Sure. Interesting little situation here. I guess if he would pass the turn and not play a spell with Huntmaster of the Fells, there would be triggers with the Werewolves, the 2 Mares, and the Huntmaster, and that's actually what's going to happen here, Matthias, as you brought up. Faithless Looting is going to get milled. There's a Sun Petal Grove, so he does do that with the effect of the stack. But yeah, if he were to pass the turn and not have played a spell, then the Mares would have flipped, and then Huntmaster would have flipped, and actually would have killed the champion of the parish, but not the Mayor of Averbrook's, flipping into the Wolfpack Alphas. So that's why you actually see him cast a spell that turn.
I think he doesn't. I think it's more important. Like I don't think he wants any of the werewolves to flip here. That's probably it's better for Christopher than it is for Clinton if all the humans flip.
Yeah, in the current situation we're in, it is better, as we are going to see a frontline medic here. That's going to pump up champion of the parish. That frontline medic is going to be a 5/5 due to those two mares, and it looks like soon here, if Clinton keeps missing somehow, that Christopher can actually start attacking, and he's going to attack here with that 2, 3, 4, 5/5 champion.
Yep, and instead of playing the Grizzly Salvage from hand, he's going to block and sack because he just wants to make sure he gets every grind possible.
Nope, just pass the turn back. Yep, and that last card is a Grizzly Salvage.
Right, so he just needs to find Land Angel, or alternatively, he can find Unburial Rights.
Yeah. And as soon as he finds either one of those, this game is over. Question here, I guess, is, he's kind of looking at his guard. Do you sacrifice here on the end step?
Probably. I mean, if you're, I don't like that play. All right, there we go. There's the Unburial
You
Rights.
like it now.
Now I like it because it worked.
But you said you don't like that play? Why is that?
You could have done it because he has the extra mana to do it main phase here.
Sure, okay.
And I don't foresee him being choked on mana that he has to do it right now. All right, so this should be, as long as Clinton executes this combo correctly, this should be game here. Since he's 4-0, I'm assuming he's pretty good at doing this.
Yeah. So he knows Warrior's Ice is going to come into play. Here's your trigger. Here comes back all the humans.
Right, so the Burning Tree Emissary is going to get 2 mana, Fiend Hunter, Burning Tree Emissary, a bunch of other humans. The relevant ones are Fiend Hunter and Burning Tree Emissary.
Yeah. How much the fell certainly doesn't hurt. It's going to come up the ground. It's going to give him a bunch of life. But as you said, the important ones here are Burning Tree Emissary and the Fiend Hunter to go along with the Undercity Informant.
So at this point, he can demonstrate a loop where he can make infinite mana and infinite grinds, which meaning like mill someone to a land.
Yep.
He can demonstrate that if he wants, which can then turn into infinite life and infinite wolves if he wants as well.
That's correct. And so you're going to see Christopher make him go through the combo here. And Clinton has obviously done this before.
Yeah, technically what you can do is you can just demonstrate a loop, and so I'm someone who plays almost exclusively combo decks when I can. If you ever are pressed for time, you can actually demonstrate a loop, and as long as your opponent, if you're worried about your opponent making you do it the entire time, when you demonstrate a loop, you can just say, all right, I'm going to loop it this many times, and then that's sufficient.
So the loop has been demonstrated. The Angel of Warrior's Rise is going to come back off the Undercity Informer, sacrificing the Fiend Hunter. Bring back all the humans. Clinton says, I'm going to keep doing this until you don't have a deck. And Christopher says, I'm good where we're at. So we're going to be going on to game number 2. Clinton and Whitehurst up a game here over Christopher Smith with Humanimator over Naya Blitz. And again, as we foreshadowed a little bit, this deck is super good when people don't have heavy graveyard hate,
right?
Like Rest in Peace, or like we see.
There are 2 Tormod's Crypts in Christopher's sideboard.
2 copies of Tormod's Crypts, which is a huge foil to Clinton's gameplay.
Absolutely. It's hard for Clinton to battle through a Tormod's Crypt. He basically has to combo twice.
Yeah. And, I mean, we saw in that game, it took him a little while to be able to combo there. And while Christopher, I don't think, ever really was going to win that game, he had the opportunity to, at least keep fighting and get back into that game. That was on a mulligan of 5. So you can only imagine how the game's going to go when it's a mulligan. I mean, when he doesn't mulligan at all, and when he's on the play.
Well, typically the benefit of playing a combo deck is that you crush aggro decks because combo is faster than aggro. The thing about standard right now is that's not actually true. Right now, the aggro deck is actually faster than the combo deck here, and because combo decks are so streamlined and only doing one thing, it's like Clinton's the slower deck, and there's not much he can do about it.
Yeah, that's the big deal. As we take a look at Clinton's sideboard here, see if he has any sort of hate for this side of the deck. I mean, he does have 3 copies of Abrupt Decay, he has 4 Drag Tusk, and then 3 copies of Cathedral Sanctifier.
And that's completely for this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, 4 or 5, 6, that's 10 cards that I feel like are probably going to be joining us here.
Yeah, well, he can do. So the thing is against Naya Blitz is actually Humanimator can become a really bad junk deck if it wants to be, which is it just kind of sides into some Cathedral things, Sanctifiers, some Thrag Tusks, and and you eventually just Unbarrel Rising a Thrag Tusk is often pretty good too. It's like isn't that much worse than just comboing him. What you probably will see him cutting for it are his worst graveyard spells. You probably see some Tracker's Instincts leaving. That card is typically, it doesn't even always make the cut in the list. It's a pretty, as far as mill yourself cards go, it's pretty far down the list.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big question, right? Like, if we're assuming that he's going to board in these 10 cards, 4 Thragtusk, 3 Above to Gate, 3 Cathedral Sanctifiers, you have to sideboard 10 cards out because the new sideboard rule isn't in place yet. So as a result, I mean, I agree with you. Tracker's Instincts needs to go up. That's 3.
Yeah,
there's 7 more.
Right. So what you end up doing is you actually start becoming less of a combo deck. Typically when you play this, so you might see him also taking out mulches and some number of Unburial Rights in the deck. Maybe not Unburial Rights, but like some rights or like mulches, Grizzly Salvages. He might just try to play more creatures because he doesn't need to. If he has more life gain creatures in the main, he like. The thing is that cards like Mulch, Grizzly Salvage make your combo faster. But the problem is that your combo is never going to be fast enough to beat Naya. Okay. So rather than being fast to beat Naya, you'd rather just be controlling. You'd rather just play life gain. And you know, okay, you might combo them, but that's not going to be your main focus anymore.
Okay. I mean, any merit to boarding out some number of Angel of Glorious Rises?
Probably some. Yeah, you don't want. I mean, absolutely. If you're boarding out part of your graveyard package, then some of the Angels leave too.
Okay. I mean, because that card obviously obscenely powerful, but can he ever get to 7 mana to actually be able to cast it? Because again, unlike your typical Junk Reanimator deck list that has Absence Pilgrims and Arbor Elves, there's no acceleration of mana here.
Right.
Which is a big deal.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's pretty much the bigger thing is like Clinton doesn't know how much hate Christopher actually has. So because of that, he may not board out his entire combo. Naya Blitz often doesn't have hate for you. They just think it's a naturally good matchup. It's a pretty big concession that Christopher actually has 2 Turmoil Scripts even in his deck.
Yeah, it's kind of a surprise to me that you actually do find those there because, again, I agree with you that this matchup is pretty favorable for Naya Blitz just because they can just push you over so quickly while Clinton's trying to get set up. But Christopher is going to have to take another mulligan here. So he went to 5 the first game, and he's going to at least 6 in the second one.
I have to assume the Crypts are for this matchup as well. You'd think you could board them in against Junk Rights, but I actually would say from a Naya Blitz perspective, I wouldn't board it in. I don't think that effect's worth a card in the Junk Rights matchup.
I don't think it is either. And I think that's what a lot of people realized at the beginning when Junk Reanimator, hit the scene. Everyone's like, yeah, I'll just go towards these graveyard hate cards like Purify the Grave and, Beckon Apparition, Tormod's Crypt, Rest in Peace. And, I mean, lo and behold, it just does not work that way. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work the way that you would think it would work. You actually just have to beat them straight up playing a regular game of Magic.
Right.
Because this deck is reliant on its graveyard. It can't work without its graveyard. But the Junk Reanimator deck has been proven over the past couple of months is just fine without its graveyard.
Mm-hmm. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a mana creature Thragtusk deck. It doesn't have to Unburial Rights things.
It's a rock deck that does some things that other decks cannot do. That's what it is. If you guys are just joining us at home here, as we do see Christopher Smith mulliganing against Clinton Whitehurst, Cedric Phillips, Matthias Hunt here in the booth at SCG Live, hashtag SCGDAL. We are in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, and if you guys do want to join in the conversation with us, feel free to do so on Twitter. Matthias has his computer, I've got my iPad, we're at the ready to discuss all the fun things with you guys this weekend, including coming up next, the King of Nerds, my friend.
Yeah, that's there's some interesting news with that. If you've ever seen the I believe it's NBC TV show.
It's actually, I think it's TBS.
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 Sorry. Okay.
Very funny. I'm also sponsored by them. That's why I know their slogan. So we're going to start with the Temple Garden here. Christopher, he's going to move down to 18. His life total highly irrelevant in this matchup, but he's going to have at least his best turn 1 play in Champion of the Parish. See Searing Spear in the draw step for him last turn. He's going to play another Temple Garden.
No red as of yet.
Yeah, no red, but he is going to have
he gets a one-shot red. Okay. One-shot red mana right now. Yeah, we're going to see him.
Ugh.
Okay, and that is not what Clinton wants to see. 7U.
So this is why the matchup's good then?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is what you always have to worry about Naya Blitz. Say next turn he just has, like, Lightning Maul or Boros Elite. That's 21. That's his entire life total.
Yeah. Wow, this is a pretty good comeback, though.
It's a pretty good start for Clinton.
So here's a Cathedral Sanctifier, a Thragtusk, a Hunt Match of the Fells, and the Woodland Cemetery is going to go to his hand. So as far as being on the back foot, double Burning Emissary can turn things around quite a bit here.
Right. Well, it's just a bunch of chump blockers, a bunch of guys that can trade.
Yeah. Clifftop Retreat to draw this turn.
That's red mana.
Yeah, that's the red mana, and the last 2 cards in Christopher's hand are Searing Spear and Experiment 1. So that was like the perfect draw for him this turn.
Well, yeah. The question is whether if he just swings with champion, he can maybe try. He can try to blow out Clinton on the double blocks. You know, if he plays experiment 1 and swings champ, he can maybe get a 2-for-1 out of it. On the other hand, he could just swing the team, but then he'd probably be trading away 2 of his cards.
Yeah. Yep, and this is the block that I thought I was going to see. I mean, I think there's actually
I think there's some merit in just swinging champ right there.
Yeah, I think there's some merit to that, or there's also just some merit to just saying like, okay, like Searing Spear your guy, like so that you can't block, because now this is
he just lost 2 damage.
Yeah, this is the worst of all scenarios here. Like you let him block and then you spear your guy, like that accomplishes almost nothing. Like the only thing that's good here for Christopher is that now Lightning Mauler is unsoulbounded, so if he does draw a guy, he actually can attack with haste. But your Searing Spear has to have a much larger effect in the game than that.
He did lose straight lose 2 damage there.
Yeah.
May not matter. So we see some Angels are in, and it looks like Abrupt Decays have also come in.
So Angel of Glory's Rise and Abrupt Decay to go to the bin. 2 lands go to Clinton's hand. But now, like, if you're Christopher, you're like a little bit scared because like you have to draw a guy this turn, or Hunt Master Fell's going to show up, and he drew the actual perfect creature in Boros Elite because now you can soul bond there.
Well, that's just lethal.
Yeah, it's going to pump the champion. That's just a 3/3 haster off the top.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, there's your battalion trigger, and there's everything.
10,
so
11.
Christopher Smith is going to win game number 2, as Nia Blitz does, very, very quickly against Clinton Whitehurst playing Human Animator.
And that really shows off why this is such a difficult matchup for the Human Reanimator deck. You know, Chris on a mulligan missed 2 damage and was still able to turn 4 him.
And it actually took, like, if you think about it, Clinton, for him to even be able to be in that game.
Clinton had 2 blockers.
Yeah, he had to have
blockers.
double Burning Emissary to even be in that game.
So he had 2 blockers, his opponent was on a mulligan, his opponent missed 2 damage, dead on turn 4.
Yeah.
You need so many answers to stop the Nia Blitz deck, and Human Reanimator really doesn't have those answers.
Yep.
And I think the key has to do with mana costs. Like, the Human Reanimator deck doesn't play any 1-drops. And the thing is to compete with what Nia's doing, if you're only playing 1 spell a turn, it's very hard to stop what they're doing.
Yeah.
And if all your spells cost 2, you really can't play more than 1 spell in a turn. Like, Burning Tree Emissary is Human Reanimator's literally only way to play more than 1 spell in a turn on the first 3 turns of the game.
Yeah. I mean, he does sideboard in Cathedral Sanctifiers, but I mean, that's a glorified healing salve in this matchup. Because, like, it's going to get him 3 life, and then it's just going to fall under.
Right, that's why that's like just telling you how the matchup is bad. The fact that we're playing Cathedral Sanctifier just to try to get another spell in.
Yep. Just to be able to play something that has an impact on the game, but that thing's just going to fall underneath a Champion of the Parish or, you know, a Battalion Boros Leader or something. You know, it's just going to be very easy for that to die.
You cross your fingers and hope that it trades with a Lightning Mauler.
Yeah, that's best case scenario. And in that case, at that point, I just don't think I'm attacking with the Lightning Mauler unless I'm fine with the trade.
That's great. Then they're holding off the Lightning Mauler, and I can chump something else. It's like
he
scored. Then he gained 5 instead of 3.
Yeah, you know, in most cases, I think like the person's going to assess the board situation. If you're Chris and say, okay, I'm fine with the Lightning Mauler dying for the Cathedral Sanctifier, take 6 from the other guys.
Yeah,
something like that. So I definitely agree with you. This is a tough spot. But if you're Clinton, if you're looking for positives, it's game 3 and I'm on the play. So that's step 1.
That's good. I'm not on the draw. That means I have a shot.
Yeah.
I mean, the funny part, like the speeds of these decks is even when Clinton's on the play, he's the slower deck.
Yeah.
Like I would say he's almost like, so in combo matchups when you're playing a combo mirror, which is you talk about goldfish turns. Like, I would say Nia's a turn 3.8 or like 3 or 4, like a 4. Maybe it's a turn 4 deck.
Sure.
It's a turn 4 deck, and I would say Human Reanimator is like a 5.5 or something.
Yeah.
So, you're 1.5 turns slower. That's that's considered almost a nightmare matchup in a combo mirror if you're that many turns behind.
I mean, yeah, if you're that many turns behind without like significant disruption too,
right? Like
some sort of element to make it so that you can make up for that. Which, from what we can see,
your disruption is grizzly bears as chump blockers.
Yeah, that's the disruption. And Christopher is keeping 7. Buckle up, everybody. Here we go.
So there's an Unburial Rites. He has a Fiend Hunter. He has 2 Fiend Hunters, and as long as he has the mana to cast them, that's pretty good.
Yes.
He has to hope that with his draws, he just draws into the combo.
Well, there's a Champion of the Parish, and there's a Tormod's Crypt. All right.
So, can't be happy to see that Tormod's Crypt. But because of, I mean, it's not unbeatable, I guess is what I would say. He can't be too disappointed based on the hand he's kept. I mean, it makes his Unburial Rites pretty bad, but...
Yeah, it's definitely not unbeatable. I agree with you there. And you see Clinton representing an Abrupt Decay right now, too.
He has one, too.
Yeah.
He could always Abrupt Decay the Tormod's Crypt if he's actually worried.
So here comes
Burning Tree.
Tree.
Uh-oh. And this is where you're thinking, like, I'm just waiting.
Oh
Burning Tree. Okay.
Number 2, and Lightning Mauler. Well then, a decent start.
Oh boy, that's some games. So I think if you decay the champion of the parish, you're okay. There's only 2 counters? Okay, 3. No.
Yeah, it should be 3, yeah. So this is a 4/4. I mean, it's going to die.
I have to think it's dying, and then he untaps and Fiend hunts away an emissary. Yeah, Gary can't act. He's still taking 4.
He's actually doing okay, honestly, right? Like
the 1/3 blocks the 2/1.
Yeah, the 1/3 blocks the 2/1, or just doesn't let him attack. Period. Depending. I mean, we know he has a land, and he obviously has double white already. Yeah, and the land's going to come play on tap, so it's not going to deal any damage. So here's Fiend Hunter. He's actually just going to eat the 2/1. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's actually. Yeah, that means he's still taking 2 a turn as opposed to taking 0 before.
Yeah. I feel like that's
it.
the wrong target. Yeah, because now, now he's able to get 2 damage across, and now we're going to see a Stomper going to come into play tap, and now here's an Experiment 1 and pass the turn back. Now, we talked about Tormod's Crypt potentially being unnecessary in this matchup. Think about if that Tormod's Crypt is just another creature.
Yeah,
the game
almost
looks
as
like.
good as another creature. It's probably so. I mean, Clinton is doing exactly what he's supposed to. He's like, remember we said post board, it just doesn't really, the graveyard doesn't really matter, and we're seeing that here. This Tormod's Crypt is, Chris could win with Fiend Hunters and Hunt Masters.
Yep.
If he plays a Thragtusk here, that's all he actually needs.
He's just playing. What we're seeing right now is Clinton just playing a normal game of Magic, which his deck is not as capable of as a typical Junk Reanimator deck. But in this situation, in this matchup, he just needs to play a normal game of Magic. Yeah. And one thing that you have to be cognizant of, and this is just like a lesson that you can learn, right, is if you draw your sideboard card and it has no effect, then you either A, shouldn't be bringing it in, or B, it shouldn't be in your sideboard.
Especially a card like Tormod's Crypt that is so narrow in what it does that when you bring it in, it should be nuts every time you draw it, because it only does one thing, and it does like one thing that's not particularly strong.
Yeah. That one effect that you're bringing in for a narrow sideboard card, it has to be completely bonkers. And at this point in the game, it's looking like it's a mulligan.
All right, gets a trade, and he actually gets to eat the Experiment 1 before it can regenerate.
Yeah. So you see some blocking take place there. Dust settles. Chris passes the turn back.
You have to think that Clinton's just shipping the turn.
I mean, he has the option of casting Fiend Hunter, shipping the turn. Yeah, I agree with you. Just ship the turn. Let this flip into Ravager. Take out this Thalia. And that's what he's going to do.
There's no attacks left for Christopher. He needs a healthy 14 life.
Yeah.
It's funny, his remaining cards, I think, are a Fiend Hunter, a land, and an Unburial Rites. So, not much action on either side, in either player's hand.
Yeah. And by all metrics, I mean, this draw from Christopher was completely insane. Like, yeah, champion on turn 1 into double Emissary plus Lightning Mauler. Like, and here's a Mare of Averbrook. Like, this draw is completely busted for Naya.
It's a Flint of 4, actually.
It's a Flint of 4. Okay, thank you.
I do think it's kind of a glass cannon draw because, it is soft to removal spell into 2/3,
Yeah.
So, but I mean, a lot of Naya Blitz's draws are soft to things like that. That's kind of part of how the deck works.
Yep. And so again, no good attacks here for Christopher. He did draw a Mare of Averbrook this turn, so I was a little bit hasty last turn. I knew Mare was going to show up eventually. But again, Mare of Averbrook, yes, it makes those Burning Emissaries into 3/3s, but it doesn't have an impact on the board.
He can swing for 6 if he plays it, as long as he's willing to let a creature trait get eaten by Ravager of the Fells. Because you have to doubt that Clinton would block with Fiend Hunter.
Yeah, I would be surprised if that does happen. As here comes Mare of Averbrook. Is he willing to basically throw away one of his guys to deal 6 points of damage, put Clinton down to 8 against a deck that has Thragtusk and it has Hunt Master of the Fells? It's a scary proposition.
My guess is yes. I don't see how we're ever getting through Ravager without doing that. Is the thing. How many ways does Christopher actually have in his list where he can just make his creatures big enough to like if he top decks another Mare, okay, that's great. Then clearly then you made the right play, but.
And he's just going to pass the turn back, so maybe his thought is, maybe I can flip this Mare.
I mean, I feel like his thought is he doesn't like this attack, but I'm wondering what he is playing to. If he just keeps drawing, a Grizzly Bear every turn, which his deck likes to do, is that good enough?
Yep. So here's a Fiend Hunter. That's going to take care of the Mare of Averbrook. And I think what Clinton's draw for the turn was a Hunt Master. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yep, so now Huntmaster of the Fells is going to come into play. Wolf token, 2 life, going to push Clinton up to 16, and his Ravager of the Fells is going to flip back down because of 2 spells, which is going to push him up to 18, another Wolf token.
Ooh, and then we flip some, yeah, he's going to just pass, one more past the turn, you know, one more pair of Huntmaster flips, and Clinton should just be able to start turning sideways.
Yep. He can finally turn the corner and start actually attacking, and it's on Chris to actually draw a spell this turn.
Christopher might flip his Huntmasters for him.
Yep.
Oh gosh, and that's...
So these are flipping. Those Burning Tree Emissaries are biting the dust. Christopher also going to take 4 damage as well.
It's going to be a, yeah. 4 to start, it's going to be a lot more here. Yeah. So that the Huntmaster of the Fells, Fiend Hunter doing a great job as a removal spell and a wall paired with Huntmaster of the Fells as the game closer. It's really all Clinton needs to get this win.
Yep. And so, I mean, again, we talked about this a little bit as well this weekend in that the Nine Blitz deck is hyper aggressive as it is. Once you deal with the first wave, they can't come back.
Well, they just draw more Grizzly Bears, which really, you know, once you've played a card that with a high impact, say, you know, a Huntmaster of the Fells, you know, drawing a 2/2 or a 3/3 really just doesn't cut it.
Yeah. And so we see Christopher, he's going to end up taking 10 from the attack.
And
he's just going to pass the turn back.
I really like, you know, from a kind of a teaching point of view, we see here at the end of the game, 1 Abrupt Decay in Clinton's yard and 1 Tormod's Crypt still on Chris's side of the board. And it's like, it kind of makes you think, like, sometimes, yeah,